Can you please state your name and what service you're in?
Well, my name's Gerald Behymer, Jerry Behymer. I was in the United States Navy from 1966 until 1970.
Can you tell us on how your service was?
How my service was? Well, I was never aboard a ship. Tried to go aboard. Went to boot camp up at the Great Lakes in Illinois, Chicago, and we were there 9 weeks. It was quite a different experience, one that I'd never had before. As a lot of people at that time, I'd never traveled too far away from Mason. I had been on a class trip to New York City, and I think that was about the farthest I'd ever been. So never had flown until I went in the Navy, and we flew out of Cincinnati to go to boot camp. There's a group of fellows from the Cincinnati area. Made a lot of friends when I was in boot camp that I still have contact with today. While I was in boot camp, my parents were able to come up and visit the last week that I was there and be part of our graduation ceremonies. And the day after they left, my father passed away of a heart attack at the age of 47. So it made it kind of hard on me, knowing that my mother she wasn't alone, but it was a time that was very stressful for her. And it made that first year kind of tough on me, never being that far away from home and away from my family. But I went from boot camp, came home for my dad's funeral, then went to Memphis, Tennessee to go to school. I went to aviation school. I had signed up in the Navy and had been guaranteed the school of my choice from the grades that I'd received on the test that they'd given us at the recruiter's office. And I went into airframes, aircraft maintenance. In Memphis, we were told that we went through equal to about 5 years of college in 9 months. So it was very intense, and we studied from 6 in the morning until about 6 in the evening. We did stop for lunch and breaks occasionally, but it was we studied the theory of flight, and then broke down into our different groups. The guys that were in airframes would go to their classes, and ones that were in the power plants section would go to theirs. When I graduated from that school, I went to Naval Air Facility, Washington, D.C. In the Navy, and they give you choices in all the branches. If you're wanting to go somewhere, when you get ready to transfer, you get to fill out what they call a dream sheet. And most of the time it is just a dream, because you're not going to get what you want. And all 3 choices I put down, I wanted to go Westpac, because all the fellows that I went to school with here in Mason, they were all over in Vietnam in the war zone. And one fellow in particular, Mark Mayhem, a very close friend of mine, was in VA 35, and I was trying to get over there and get in VA 35. But I was the only one out of our class that went to the East Coast. Everyone else went to the West Coast and shipped out over to Vietnam. And in our class, we had half of us were Navy, the other half were Marines, because the Marines are part of the Navy. If you ask a Marine, the Navy's part of the Marines, though. But we were all together in classes. When I got to the Naval Air Facility in D.C., our mission there was to keep aircraft ready for pilots that were in the Washington, D.C. area to keep their flight time in. And I worked on, if you took everything off of the airplane, if you took the power plants off, the radios out, and the parachutes out of it, I had the rest of the aircraft to work on. And I was put on a check crew. Every year, each aircraft has to come in for a calendar inspection. And that's what we would do. We'd open up all the access panels, look for leaks, look for cracks in any of the parts of the aircraft, the skin, the stringers, anything where we could find a crack, we had to fix it. As you know, we've had a few commercial aircraft that the skin started coming off and they opened up in flight. I don't know if you guys heard about that or not, but that was a thing that we always was looking for because we didn't want that to happen. One of the reasons, most of us were on flight crews and we were flying in the aircraft we were working on, so that made you be a little bit more conscientious of what you were doing. I met a lot of really good people up in Washington. I worked on what was called a US-2 aircraft. It was made by the Grumman Corporation, and then I moved up to the heavies, and in the heavies we had the large prop airplanes that were sort of like commercial. And one of the planes that we had that we flew was Roosevelt's Air Force One. We had it, and it still had the china and the silverware on it from Roosevelt's time and when he was in the presidency. It was kind of neat to work on that aircraft and see all of that.